Atlanta is off the chain. Listen, I'm excited. I believe this is the greatest time in the history for believers. We have so many people from all walks of life coming to this church. Today was crazy. I want to invite you to come out next week, 12:30, Oasis Atlanta, 3462 Delmar Lane. Come check us out, be a part. God's doing something new. Hey, this is my dude we met at Cascade Skate Rink. This is our first member of the church, and we ain't even open yet. Tell them a little bit about the community, man.
Hey, man, what's up, man? You know what I'm saying? My name is Z, the fair one out here that I already know, man. I'm Roadblock Connoisseur. But, man, you know what I'm saying? It's time for a change out here. You know, and the messed up part about it is I helped pay the way. Now it's time for me to help tear it up and pave a whole new way, man. So
like that.
Everyone out here, man, if God can change my life, and y'all know me personally, wow. If God can change my life, He can change y'all, man. So come on out here and help us out, man, because we need all the help that we can get, man. I ain't going nowhere. I'm here.
That's what I'm talking about, baby.
I ain't going nowhere.
In the city, baby.
I'm here, man.
Hey, how y'all doing? Hey, what's up? My name's Anthony Murray, and I'm a pastor, and I love it. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in church. I feel like I was born in church. I'm telling you, my whole life I was in church, and I hated church coming up. I didn't like church. I didn't like church people. And one of the reasons why, I just felt like all the rules and regulations church had, I just knew I couldn't live up to it. I just felt like that it was no way I could go to heaven and be saved based on what I was taught and what I believed. And you know, honestly, one day God saved me. I'm telling you, He did. I remember going to a revival at my uncle's church, and you know, I was going to look at girls, to be honest. Me and some of my homeboys, and the guy who was preaching, I'll never forget his name, was Tony Gardner. He was preaching and did an altar call, and I went up there. It was like something pulled me to the altar. Of course, I know it was God now, and my life changed that day. It really did change that day. I ended up getting married at 19, having our first baby, started a business, and about a year and a half later, I was just at church doing my thing, and my dad, who was the pastor, just said, "Hey, God told me you're gonna be the youth pastor, and that's what you are." And I was like, "Okay, I'll do it." And so the rest is history. I started a youth movement. It was called Club VFL. It was one of the hottest times of my life. And that was, we were making church cool. You know what I'm saying? I was like, what does a pastor look like? What does being saved look like? I remember turning the altar call area into the dance floor, and you know, putting strobe lights in the church, and just doing all kind of cool stuff, dressing however you want to. I was having thug night and Hawaiian night and parties and all kind of things, attracting young people to God, and it was one of the greatest times of my life. And I did that for 8 years, and man, we made a lot of impact in the lives of young people through the country, and especially Atlanta. And so one day, check this out. One day I was in the foyer. I was talking to this young girl who had been kidnapped. She had been raped, and she got pregnant. And I didn't even know this could happen. She had caught 2 STDs. So she's pregnant, she had been raped, 2 STDs. We're ministering to her, you know, helping her out, getting her somewhere to stay, and just being a blessing to her. She gave her life to Christ, and God spoke to me in the foyer and said, "It's time for you to start a church, and this is what you are. I want you to call your church an Oasis. You are, and your church will be a watering place in the middle of a desert life. I want your church to be called Oasis, because you're going to be a oasis, a place of hope and refreshing in the middle of life. And I'm going to use you to influence influential people. I'm going to cause you to do great things and change a culture." And that's what's happening, man. And let me tell you something. It's some of the most exciting times in my life to see people who don't know God and who don't really believe in church or religion give their life to God, in a unique way and to see a generation be saved. And now here we are. I was a part of the Generation X. I used to preach as a youth pastor about what God was doing with Generation X, and now we're the millennial generation. And I believe this is the greatest season in the world for people to be saved. And this is the greatest season in the kingdom for creativity, innovation, and new things to happen. And I'm excited about being in the forefront of that. And my goal is to just cause this whole culture to come to know Jesus in a new way. I'm excited about all of you coming. I'm excited. I've been praying and saying, God, what did you want me to talk about today? And I thought I was done with the expansion series, but God spoke to me again and said, listen, talk to them about this being the year of expansion, and talk to them about 6 months in that we have deep. We got 6 months deep in this 2017, and we have 6 months to go to move into 2018, and to remind the people of God that this is the season and this is the time for expansion. I want you to think about this for a moment. Anytime there is transition, there will always be trial. I want you to write it down if you would. If somebody can, tweet it to yourself, text yourself. Anytime there is transition, there will always be a period of trials. Anytime something is moving from one place to a new place, there's always going to be a moment of insecurity. There's always going to be a moment of frustration. There's always going to be a moment of fear. And what I've learned about fear is not bad initially. Fear is good initially because you use fear to push you to where you need to go. You use fear as a fuel or energy or a directive to push you out of where you are into the new place. When fear becomes wrong and when fear becomes negative is when you allow it to stay in your heart and to stay in your mind too long. Have you ever thought about that for a minute? Because we're believers, and, growing up in church, I was always taught that fear is just this terrible thing. As an alpha male, fear. But fear is a reality. Let me see your hands if you've been afraid of uncharted territory, of new places. How many of you been dreaming? I know you have. Let me see your hands if you've been seeing something better, seeing something else. That's God that will allow that to happen into your life.
One of the things that I love about the Oasis Atlanta campus that we're able to actually go outside the church and reach the people that's in need. One of the experiences that I had myself was actually going outside the campus, going into the community, passing out flyers and letting them know where our location was. We were like a light on a hill in that community. So what inspired me so much is to see the people come out from the community and come into our church, and their lives become changed instantly, whether it be spiritually, physically, mentally, or financially. And that's what I love about the church, to actually see someone out on the street and come in and decide to dedicate their lives to Oasis Atlanta Church and become just like us, to want to serve and volunteer in our church.
Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. Let's go. I want to take some notes today and kind of talk a little. The Lord, this is what the Bible says. The Lord said to Abram, go from your country, your people, and your father's house to a land that I'm going to show you. That I'm going to show you. So he's telling you to get out of where you are and go to a new place. Now, I want us to think about this intellectually more than physically. I want to think about this emotionally more than just a physical place. Leave the way you think and think new. Leave the way you feel about yourself and think new. He says, I want you to leave. I want you to I want you to leave your family. I want you to leave your father. I want you to leave this land, and I want you to go somewhere new.
Back in 2015, my family and I, we moved from Virginia to Atlanta, and I didn't know where I was going to go as far as to church. And one Thursday, I believe, my wife, she had visited Pure Pillow Talk, which is something that Mrs. Christina Murray runs. And when she came home, she was so excited about how everything went that that I said to her, why don't we go there to Oasis on Sunday? So we drove all the way over here to Oasis in Dallas, Georgia. And when we walked into the building, 1,000 people going in, giving God praise, and we just felt the connection. It felt like family. And I was just amazed, and I was just wondering, how could such a large church feel so close-knit like a family? We were able to meet Pastor. We were able to meet some of the ministers. They gave us a tour of the church as well. And, you know, it's just amazing. We actually left after that, and they had an evening service. And there was a pastor by the name of Pastor Sanchez. He was from Florida. He was coming to preach the Night of Faith that Sunday night. And before me and my wife came, we held each other's hand, and I said, you know, let's pray this prayer. And our prayer was, you know, God, give us a word and tell us, oh God, what is it that you would have for us to do if this is the church for us to be at. And when we arrived here, the pastor was preaching, the word was going forth, and before everything concluded, I looked up and I said, God, don't forget me, please, to give us a word. And the pastor called our names, called us out in that service. We were the only ones that he prophesied to that night. And when he prophesied to us, he told us the prayer that we had verbatim. And then at that point in time, he told us that Oasis was the church for us to be at. So that's my story and how getting here. And God has really, truly blessed us, knitted us close with Pastor and Mrs. Murray. And it's just been phenomenal ever since.
And if you hear this, I'm not saying you got to go to a different geographical area for things to change, but we do know God will bless a place. Tell somebody, tell them God will bless a place. Yeah, and Oasis is my blessed place. Some people run and go different places thinking that when they go to a different place, things are going to change, but they don't realize it's not the place sometimes, it's them. You heard me say it before, you take you with you. And so I don't want to go into a new place in life and take the old me with me, my old way of thinking. And so when we look at Abraham, why did he tell him to leave? He says, leave this place, leave your family, leave your father's house, leave your family, leave the way they think behind and go to a new place because I'm going to use you to help them later. Think about that for a minute. I want to ask you a question. Is there a way you think that you need to leave? Are there things that you do based on the way you think that you need to change? Are there places that you keep finding yourself falling into life at simply because of the way you think? The Bible is true and it's real, and life depicts it as well when it says, as a man thinks, so is he. We even learned in society that if you believe something, if you think something is good enough, you can actually cause it to materialize in your life. There really power in your words. How many people are visualizing things differently now for you and better? That's great. So how do we make a mental leap from where we are to the place that God wants us to be? It's called living a life of purpose. And it's hard when you do that. It's a transitional place when you do that. So let's go back to Genesis 12 again. I want to read it again. The Lord said unto Abram, go from this country and your people and your father's house to a land that I'm going to show you. He says this, I'm going to make of you a great nation, and I'm going to bless those that bless you, and I'm going to curse those who curse you, and all the peoples of the earth will be blessed through you. And Abraham went as the Lord told him. Don't you know he was afraid? Don't you know he was the unknown? God always tells us and shows us pictures and images and gives us dreams of the beginning, where we are now, and the ending, where we're going to be. But he never takes the time to detail out what you got to go through to get to the process. I dare you to touch somebody real quick and tell them, I don't look like what I've been through. But let me see if there anybody like me. I wouldn't trade it for the world, because it's made me think like I think. It made me grind like I grind. It made me work like I work and believe like I believe. Getting the rope taken off. We are ready to roll. These guys working. Carlos and I talking about return of investment and why we do it. Carlos, what do you feel about this campus? How you feel about why we out here in this urban community?
Man, it matches exactly why God put us in this earth, to reach those in need, to minister the gospel, change people's lives that most people wouldn't even talk to. That's what this campus is all about.
Aren't you excited about it? The kingdom. Talk about that real quick. You got 30 seconds. The kingdom dynamic. What is that in contrast to what we're doing? Our connection to what we're doing?
Oh yeah, man. Kingdom dynamic, bringing it to people's hearts, man, that would not know any other way. They looking for hope, they looking for something to need, and we're gonna bring them the kingdom. That's the only thing that's gonna change their life.
Yeah, I love it. So we're doing the work. Everybody thinks stuff is easy. Anything worth something is a risk factor. There's an investment involved, and there's sacrifice, and that's what we're doing now, and the kingdom is coming. So I want to talk about what expansion means. The Bible talks about, it uses an illustration about seasons and times, right? And he says this, he says, you don't put new wine, you heard me talk about it before. This is something you got to hear over and over again. Can I talk about it? You don't put new wine in old wineskins. You know why, right? You know that they used skins back then to store wine. We use bottles and glasses now in plastic, but they use skins, right? And skins, all of our skin has elasticity. But once it stretches to its capacity and it can't stretch anymore, then it breaks. Wine ferments. I'm trying to tell you something. You got to catch the revelation. Some of you got to be patient because God's letting some things ferment in your life. He's letting you struggle just a little bit and feel a little pain just a little bit and be lonely for a while, a little bit. But you got to nudge somebody and tell them that's just fermentation. I'm going to be more expensive. I'm going to be more potent. I'm going to be more powerful. I'm going to be a little wiser when God gets finished developing me. I remember, man, that day. I remember it was Alicio Sanchez, one of my best friends. Yeah. And then I remember that day he prophesied to y'all. And I loved y'all because you and Paris were so swagged out that night. And I was like, man, God is sending these new, young millennials to our church. And y'all were here coming faithfully, man. And I remember that word. And who would have thought we started Oasis in Atlanta in Buckhead. Brandon, you were like, this cat was like working the parking lot. And I wanted to see would he be faithful because remember, you know, we tried to get you plugged in and I don't know what happened. Right. And I was like, well, I want him, I see something special in this guy. And I heard you was a heck of a preacher too. People was bragging on you for real. It was like, that dude is a beast. And I'm like, well, let me see if he'll serve, you know? Yeah. Because I think this is a guy who can lead. And I believe you should serve before you lead. And you remember being in the parking lot?
Yeah, I remember. The parking lot was so amazing because sometimes people look at it and they, you know, feel like, hey man, you came from this church, you was preaching, you were doing this, and you served in the parking lot. But you know something amazing? I was asking God too. I was like, the parking lot. I was like, really humble me, you know? And then God said to me, you know, everybody that comes to the church, they got to come by you. So you got to get to know these people. Ooh. So that's why I was like, you know, humble yourself, stay in the parking lot, because this is where you're going to grow. You're the door. This is the first person that they meet before they get into the church. Right. And it's just an amazing experience just being there. Hey, I enjoyed it, honestly. I'll go back out there sometimes even now.
Yeah. And so, man, I always watched just to see your attitude and to see how he was gonna interact with me and people doing that. And you know, and then one day God spoke to me and said, you know, you're gonna need really I was in a leadership meeting and I was listening to Craig Oliver. We was in one of our full gospel meetings and he was talking about all the campuses that he had, and he said you definitely need a campus director. Got to give him kudos for that. And the Lord spoke to me that day and was like, Brandon is the one. Now this cat's in the parking lot, kind of like David, you know, in the field. And man, so I grabbed him and you came, and the rest has been history, man. And this Atlanta has been crazy. Really? It has been crazy. The types of people that's coming, how many people are coming, how many people are connecting and wanting to be a part. And I just think it's great to have a leader who don't mind. I like what you said. I'll go right back out in the parking lot again. And so will I.
I became a member at Oasis Paulden because when I first moved, when I was thinking about moving here, my now husband was telling me that this church was so amazing. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna check it out. So he gave me the website to look at the church online. So I was like, okay, I like that pastor because he was kind of funny and he focused a lot on the youth. And at that time, I was like in my early 20s. So when I came to visit, I was just like, I felt like he met me where I was at and helped me grow. So that's how I came here and got stuck.
Abraham, leave your father. He's not saying cut him off and don't love him no more. He's saying leave his influence. Because dads needs to stay here. I got some theologians. You know that Abram's father, God really wanted him to go to Canaan. But on his way from where he left to, he migrated to Haran, he stayed there and he should have went to Canaan. So God called his son Abraham to do what he should have did. You better hear what I'm telling you. Touch your neighbor and tell him God's gonna do some stuff in my life. Somebody else didn't take the opportunity, but I'm jumping, baby. Check this out. So this happens to be the church that my grandfather pastored for 40-something years. My grandparents got a divorce 30 years ago, and I was one of the grandkids that got kind of pushed to the side. Like, well, the divorce happened, and you know, some went this way and some went that way. So one minute I have my granddad, and the next minute I can't go see him. And full circle, he's went on to be with the Lord. But God sent me in Atlanta to finish the work. Oh man, I'm trying not to get emotional. That he started. And God said, there are people in this world and in your family line that's made a pact with me. And they said, if God, if you bless me, I'll serve you. If you'll touch my family, I'll serve you. And now I'm a benefactor. And we are a benefactor of what God promised somebody that's been dead and gone. And I'm telling you, Atlanta, Oasis Atlanta is something special, and it's on the rise. And I'm so excited about it. And I'm glad to be its pastor, man. Can't wait to see what the future is going to hold. So check it out. So he's talking about a mindset. He's talking about a way of thinking. So to expand means to become larger. Write this down. Simple. It means to become bigger. It means to produce where you haven't been able to produce before. To produce. I failed at this. All of my life. I messed it up. But now here I am again, and God's brought me full circle and say, I love you so much. Not only am I going to give you another chance, but this time you're going to make it. Not only am I going to give you another opportunity, but this time it's going to work. Now, I need some crazy people to just high five 3 people real quick and tell them it's going to work this time. It's going to. I asked you to do it to encourage them. It's going to work this time. I know it didn't work last time, but I didn't know God like I know him now. Oh, God, I didn't have God with me like I got him with me now. It didn't work because I didn't realize I had favor on my life. But I've been through so much hell, I realized I got favor on my life. So where I failed last time, I'm going to win this time. You hear what I'm saying? Let me show you. Let me show you. Once you learn how to build a house, it's no problem doing it the second time. It's the first time that's tough. That's how a person can be worth millions and lose it all. Do you know statistics tell you a person can be a multimillionaire who, especially a self-made millionaire, a person who just worked and worked and worked that business and worked it, and then it crashed, and they went from having riches to rags? Statistics says, and that was an old statistic because I bet you it's faster now. Statistics used to say that in 2 years, they'll be a millionaire again. Why? Because they learned all of the things. You better tell your neighbor and tell them, it's going to work this time. It's going to work this time. I'm not as sensitive. I'm not as prideful. I'm not as rude. I'm not as mean. I'm not as insecure. I don't need accolades from people no more. I'm not trying to impress people no more. I don't need approval from people no more. I like me now. It's going to work this time. You learn what to do better. I think it's going to eclipse it because I know that I'm a better pastor after almost 12 years of being a senior pastor of Oasis Church. I just feel like we can all do it better this time around than we did the first time. He says, leave the way they think. They're good people, but leave the way they think. They want to stay here, but I have something better for you. They are happy being where they are, and that's cool with them. But God's got something greater for you. So you got to be willing to let it go to grab something new. You got to be willing to release something that you need to get something that you want. I wish I had somebody to know what I'm talking about. And then you have to know how to release something that you want to grab something that you need. Tell somebody, tell them, just let it go. Just the old way of thinking, just let it go. Tell them, let it go. Ask them what you're talking about. Ask them, let what go? The old way you think, the old way you feel, unforgiveness, pressure, anxiety, fear, and stress. Just let it go and be what God called you to be. I'm praying for a YOLO anointing. Some of y'all don't know what that is. You only live once.
This is such a leader. He's not just somebody that just tells you what to do. I've learned so much from him just in these few months. I've learned construction. That was my first project when I took on this position at being the campus director.
Be a construction worker.
Yes, I've learned so much, man. He shows you how to do, and he's open to hearing your opinion. Man, I just want to let you know, I appreciate you. Man. I value you, I love you, and I thank God for you being in my life 100%.
I feel the same. I'm proud of this guy because everybody can't catch cadence. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to know, can he run with me? I'm a runner.
Right.
I'm a sprinter and a marathon. I run the marathon fast, but I sprint faster. And you know, the most proud moment I can say is watching you serve for 6-8 months in the parking lot. with all these gifts and all these abilities, just loving people, showing up every day. And now I'm proud of saying you know, he take his hits and he take his victories. He take his losses, he take his wins. So again, I'm excited to see what the future gonna hold, man.
Yes, sir. I am as well.
To expand means to succeed where you failed. And if you're gonna do that, you have to have expectation. Notice that God didn't tell Abraham everything that was gonna happen in the middle. Lot is gonna come with you. You're gonna have to go to battle for Lot. You're gonna have to separate with Lot. You're gonna lie to a king, but because I love you so much, because your wife bad, you're gonna tell them this bad chick you rolling with your sister. Because she's so cold, you think they're gonna kill you because you forgot you got favor. I'm gonna just pause for a minute and let y'all catch it because you be in a slow class. Some of y'all trying to finesse. Well, you don't need to finesse, you got favor. When you show up, people just, I'm gonna come over here because y'all still, can I get this section up? You don't have to finesse this, you got favor. Oasis Atlanta is off the chain. Listen, I'm excited. I believe this is the greatest time in the history for believers. We have so many people from all walks of life coming to this church. Today was crazy. I want to invite you to come out next week, 12:30, Oasis Atlanta, 3462 Delmar Lane. Come check us out, be a part. God's doing something new. Hey, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this teaching today was a blessing to your life. You know, I'm excited about what God is doing for you. I want you to stay connected with me on all social media aspects. How you do it is _Anthony Murray. Follow me there, _Anthony Murray. And I also would love to invite you to come out to Oasis Church, Paulding County, that's 210 Paulding Lane, or 3462 Delmar Lane, our brand new church in Atlanta. So many amazing things are happening. It's popping there. And I want you to come out and be a part. Listen, follow me at AnthonyMurrayMinistries.com. Go to my website, connect with us. You can get product. You can connect with me there. It is AnthonyMurrayMinistries.com. And finally, I want you to remember this, that God is with you. And if God is with you, nothing in the world can be against you. Until next time, you be blessed.